Hi everybody, Donna Kessler here, and today I am at Moroney's Harley-Davidson in Newburgh, of all places. It's one of the few dealers in the area that still sell snowmobiles, and we are going to be spending a little time talking about those snow rides today on this episode of My Ride Garage. Snowmobiling is a sport that many people have taken as a serious hobby today. Now, early snowmobiles used rubber tracks, but modern snowmobiles tracks are typically made of Kevlar composite. Now, originally, snowmobiles were powered by two-stroke gasoline internal combustion engines, and since the mid-2000s, four-stroke engines have also entered the market. Snowmobiles have evolved into some powerful snow machines, and we are at Moroney's today, and I am here with Eric Cuchelo, who is the manager in the metric sales department, and we're going to be talking about these awesome machines that he has right here. Eric, thanks so much for meeting with me. I mean, like 60-degree weather, but still, you know,
it was definitely still sled weather.
Yeah, so. Yeah, but still, we're probably going to get some more snow, and I know like Tug Hill has like 10 times of me with snow.
Just because there's not snow here doesn't mean there's not sledding upstate. So.
Exactly. And that's the thing. People go far and wide.
Yes.
They go where the snow is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Canada, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, upstate New York.
Yeah. And, you know, one would think, why would somebody want to sell snowmobiles? Is the sales really that good, like in this area?
Yeah, it is, because the people that are into it, again, they're willing to travel. It's what they enjoy doing. So, yes, it's something that a lot of people enjoy. And like I said, just because there's no snow here doesn't mean you can't ride them. So they travel to Upper Peninsula of Michigan. A couple of our customers have mentioned they just tried the UP and they love riding there. So there's a lot of options when it comes to riding them. Absolutely.
Well, that's good to know. And people are taking it as a serious hobby, almost like motorcycle riding in a certain extent.
For some of them, it's even more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's plenty of guys that's what they do. That's more important than the bikes to them.
Yeah. Now, you have a number of them on the floor here, and these look so high-tech to me. Yeah, now, you deal with just Skidoo?
Correct, just the Skidoo brand.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So we've got a few different generations out here.
Okay.
They still utilize the XP chassis, which was designed back in like '08. It was a revamp of the first Rev. They still utilize that in their bang for the buck sled. That's $8,000 new unit. It's still carbureted, but it is liquid cooled, two-stroke power. Still a good performing sled, but it's like their entry-level price tag. So you can get into a brand new sled for maybe in the $8,000 range.
Oh wow, that's really reasonable. What are some of the biggest changes that I mean, there's got to be tons, but like what are the main ones that snowmobiles have? Changes over the years, you know?
Well, a lot of the big changes are what they've slowly been doing is getting the rider more forward, closer to the front of the machine, near where the engine weight is. They've come out with much better suspensions as far as travel and performance and tunability in the suspensions. So over the years, what we've seen is rather than sitting way down on a low seat behind the engine and stuff, you're actually up higher now.
Okay.
Better handling sleds, better float, and they've gotten very what's the word? Specialized. I mean, we have trail sleds, like a short track trail sled, which is like a 120. That's their shortest track length for very good handling, quick turning. And at the end is a 154 track, which is a deep powder track. So
there are different types of snowmobiles for different types of terrain.
Sure, like what kind of riding you're going to be doing. Yep.
Right. Even the type of snow?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are designed to do crossover for different types of conditions. Some become very specialized, though.
Okay.
Like something like the 154 down at the end, you wouldn't want to be riding that on a lake, on ice, or anything like that. The track's not really designed for that.
Okay.
But they do have some, what they're now calling crossover sleds, stuff like the Renegade series. That's a 137 length track. It comes in a variety of depth track. So they call it crossover because it's still going to handle well on a finished trail.
Okay.
But it also is a little bit long enough where if you do want to go off into some powder, it's still going to have a little bit better floating capabilities than the shortest track.
That sounds like it's more for like recreation. Like,
yeah, I mean, for the upstate people that are mainly spending time on New York State trails, finished type trail systems, it's usually the MXZ series, which is the 120, 129s, the Renegade 137s. When you start moving into bigger than that, that's when you start looking at sleds that are really more for powder and float than for the finish.
So, like, say when experts come in, do they look more at the track, or do they look for, like, performance, like horsepower? Or?
Yeah, all of those things.
Yeah?
They definitely have a certain track that they might have in mind. You know, your educated shopper, some guys prefer a traditional style track where they're going to actually put the traditional studs in it. That's what they've always used. That's what they like.
Okay.
They actually have tracks now where they're pre-picked, so to speak, where your ice picks are in the track lug, which saves weight, less risk of throwing a pick through your heat exchanger and ending your riding day. Some people just prefer a clean track. No studs at all. They don't mind a little bit of the sliding around to help their handling capabilities. And
So like me, who's never, I mean, I've driven a snowmobile, but it was back in the day when they were like a box, and I never got back on one. Yeah. But today, if I was to come in here as a new motorcycle driver, and I said to you, I want to buy a snowmobile, and I like that one, you know, what would you recommend to a beginner snowmobiler as far as what snowmobile would be perfect for them?
Well, also one of the questions, what kind of motorcycle are you riding? You know, what do you like to do when you're riding your motorcycle? What type of riding are you doing? A lot of times the beginners will like the idea of something like the new 900 4-stroke, where it actually has a programmable key that limits your top speed so you can't get yourself in too much trouble.
Oh, okay.
It also has programmable power delivery modes. It has an eco mode for the best fuel economy. It has a standard mode for your typical trail riding, and then it'll have a sport mode that's even more aggressive than that. So,
oh, wow. You can put them in all different modes.
Yeah.
Oh,
on the
really
on the 4-stroke you can.
Okay.
Yeah, so something like that you would definitely have a ton of fun on, and it'd be really user-friendly in the beginning. A little bit more performance-oriented riders might want to start on something like a 600 2-stroke.
Okay.
Even though it's a smaller displacement, it's going to have more horsepower than the base 900.
So these go up to different miles, like miles per hour too?
Yeah, depending. A lot of it, the top speed out of the 2-strokes are going to be close between the bigger and the smaller engines, not separated as much as people would think, but the acceleration is going to be a lot harder out of the bigger displacement.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, and are these for two people?
The gray one is for two people. That's a 2-up. You can see it's got the handles for your passenger, heated hand grips for your passenger. That's their highest end 2-up. That comes with a lot of nice stuff. That comes with the touring trunk, so you have a place to put your gear and stuff like that. Everything else in here is set up as a single-seater, but you can swap out the single seat for a 2-up seat if you're just going to ride a second person occasionally.
Okay.
Typically, if you're going to be bouncing back and forth between 1 or 2-up riding, you would probably want to look at something like a Renegade that has the 137 length track.
Okay.
Because if you started doing 2-up on a smaller track, there's really not a lot of room for the passenger's feet and stuff like that. So some of these do actually flip back and forth between 1 and 2-up.
So it almost sounds like this is almost like a dresser, like a motorcycle dresser, where it's got the luggage area and stuff, you know, because the trails are long, right? The trails, some of the trails are long, and there's stops and hotels to stop at and all that stuff,
restaurants, hotels, gas stations, all kinds of stuff, Yeah,
it's just like roads covered with snow. That's all they are.
But that one, a lot of frontal coverage, so you're going to be out of the wind quite a bit. So, you know, that's they call it the Grand Touring. So it is touring oriented, a lot of long range comfort and stuff like that. And the seats are actually going to be cut different. If you look at something like the seat on the 2-up Grand Tourer, you see it's got a lot of width to it, a lot of comfort look. And then if you look at seats like on the free rides that we have on display, they almost are just a place to sit briefly because you're going to be riding standing up the majority of the time. Okay. If you're on something in the powder.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about safety, because you hear about so many accidents on snowmobiles and stuff. And I mean, it's really not a regulated sport. Like there's not portions of the trail. Is there portions of the trail where there's a speed limit?
There's a speed limit in New York State on the trail system. There is a speed limit. It's just like the speed limit on the road. It's obeyed by some, but not all.
Right.
So,
and then these trails are patrolled, so just so you know.
Yes, yeah, they can have checkpoints, checking for registrations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, you can of course get DWIs riding a sled, just like you can get one on a boat or a watercraft or anything else. So yes, a lot of the problems do arise between mixing some of the drinking and the riding. So that's, you know, sometimes not the best combination. But yeah, like I said, there are some rules. There are laws. There are speed limits and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily always observed.
Yeah. So these have safety features, like is there like a kill switch or anything like that?
You're tied on with a lanyard, so if you do happen to leave the sled when you, just like on a watercraft or something like that, the key is tied to you.
Okay.
So if you do fall off or something like that, it will shut off. There is an emergency stop button on top of the handlebars that just push down quickly to turn off the machine.
That's the biggest thing. Right, because people fall off these things, you know, if you hit a drift or something like that, you know.
Some of the bigger problems, yes, ice drifts, stuff like that. And then also riding too fast for conditions or capability. If you leave the trail, there's usually not a lot of runoff on some of the New York State trails. You know, some of them are narrow and they're tree lined. So by missing by a few feet can.
Yeah. So as with anything, even like a car, a motorcycle, I mean, you have to pay attention, A, to what you're doing. B, you have to, you know, drive with the conditions, you know. It almost sounds like the same thing.
It's as safe or as dangerous as you want to make it.
Yeah. Now, of course, helmets are required on these, correct? And what about the gear that they wear?
It depends on the riding you're going to do. Some guys will wear like just a light wicking type undergarment with just a windbreaker, depending where you're riding and how you're riding. Of course, there's winter type coats that have liners and stuff like that, but people are usually surprised about how much work is involved with it and how much you're moving around. You're usually not getting real cold.
Okay. Is there heated gear like heated gear for motorcycles?
They have they have heated grips and thumb throttles to keep
on the snowmobile itself. There's heated grips.
Yeah, absolutely. Heated grips, heated thumb throttle.
Oh wow.
There is heated gear and stuff like that. There are plugs that you can, like boots, but again, for the most part, when you're trail riding, it's a little bit of work. You wouldn't really need it unless the conditions were super extreme. But even if it's like in 0, -10 and stuff like that, a lot of times you'll be sweating underneath the gear while you're riding.
And they run all right in that kind of weather too? Yeah?
Absolutely. Just got to wait for them to warm up.
Right. They on gasoline? Or a mix? They're not a mix, right?
Well, in your fuel tank is straight fuel. The 2 strokes are oil injected. So you have an oil tank, a gas tank, and then the machine is going to mix it during the burn. The 900, 600, 4 strokes, those are all just like your car. You just put regular gas in them. There's an oil to change in the case and stuff like that. So 4 strokes or 2 strokes, you're just going to put regular pump gas into the tank. But if it's a 2-stroke, you have the separate oil tank to keep full. So no pre-mixing.
The life of the belts on these, like, they differ from snowmobile or how you ride and all that stuff? There's variables,
exactly. How hard you're riding. The belts, you know, they can break at any time, so it's always a good idea to have a spare with you. So pretty much most of the guys will have a spare belt just in
like
case.
A spare tire. Like a spare tire.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really cool. Now, what about maintenance? Like, once the season is done, what do you have to do to one of these to like store it away for the summer?
It's pretty simple anymore. A lot of them summarize themselves. Basically, what you would do is fog the cylinders so that the cylinders and rings and stuff don't rust from sitting. But a lot of them actually have a programmable mode now where you winterize it. The machine will do it itself. It basically run richer with more oil in it, so it kind of coats the internals. Of course, battery
should really convenient.
Yeah, in the old days it was remove the spark plugs, fog the cylinders with the fogging oil.
A lot of stuff.
But again, with some of the newer technologies, some people are doing it themselves. We do it here, of course, but. But battery should be disconnected, put on a tender of some sort. Chain case oil is a seasonal thing, so some guys do it at the end of the season, so they're ready to go next season. So chain case oil, fogging the cylinders, removing the battery.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure all my snowmobilers out there are going to be like coming in here and saying, I got to look at that one. Yeah, thanks so much, Eric.
Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you. You know, I think these machines are really cool, no pun intended. Now, snowmobile technology has come such a long way. Safety is always at the top of the manufacturer's list, plus they really want people to get out there and enjoy the trails, and there are so many right here in our local area. Now, snowmobiling is not just for winter. Now, in the summertime, snowmobilers drag race on grass or even across water. I said snowmobiles are even modified to compete in long-distance off-road races. I want you to go to recordonline.com/myride, and there you'll find a list of local snowmobile clubs and events in the area, and you can even get a map of the New York trails by visiting New York State Snowmobile Association website at newyorksnowmobiler.com. Now get out there and kick up a little snow as soon as we get some. Till next time, this is Donna Kessler from My Ride Garage.